Okay, so I believe we are now recording. All right. So continuing. So this video is continuing from the previous lecture where I spoke about designing on a grid. Right. So I've explained to you generally there are 12 grid columns, and then we can design our layout accordingly to the 12 grids, using different combinations of grids. We can form mixed row column, mixed columns, three column, four columns grid, and etc. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the uh, wireframe. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate to you my process of doing a wireframe. And as I have mentioned in the earlier lecture, okay, we have a sitemap, right? This is a sitemap that I have prepared just for the sake of demonstrating this class, right? So this is a sitemap for our imaginary radio station, okay? The one that we did the mood board for, the Vibe FM, okay? So this is the the sitemap for that particular website, that particular radio station's website, okay? So just to recap, sitemaps are how we organize information throughout our whole website, right? So from the sitemap, we can tell how many pages are there and how are the information being categorized, right? Where do we put certain information? So for example, in the home page, we know what we have to put in it. For the about page, we know we have to put what information we have to put. For the digit profile, right? For each profile, what are the contents in each profile page for the DJs? So the sitemap deals with the overall structure of the website, the information arranged on it. Okay. Now, when it comes to sitemap, when it comes to wireframe, a wireframe is how we organize information in one particular web page. Okay, and not just about how we organize, but how we visually organize information on a particular web page, right? So a wireframe is done page by page. Okay, so it means to say if we have 5 pages in our website, we will have 5 wireframes. Okay, for example, this case, right, we will have a homepage wireframe, we have a contact wireframe. For every single page, we will do have a wireframe. But in cases where, for example, like this, right, digit profiles, if these all profiles are the same design, then we only need to do one wireframe for this one page lah, right, as a sample or as a template for that particular page type. Okay, so it's important. That's why for me to re-emphasize again, it's important for you to actually know what are the content that you have in each page. Okay, and especially present in all pages. You don't want to leave a page blank because then you don't know what information to put into that particular web page and to design that particular wireframe. So please, now that you guys know this, please go and look at your sitemap again. Okay, and make sure that every single page you have labeled accordingly. What are the content of each page? All right. Okay, so let's get started. So we will start on Figma. Okay, so we'll boot up Figma. All right, so I have my team project here. What I do is I just click on a new design file. Okay, and I'll have this user interface right here. And of course, the first thing we do, we always rename our file. So I'm just going to say this is wireframe demonstration. Okay, wireframe demonstration. And we can move on to creating the frame that we will be designing our wireframe on. Okay, so in Figma, we sort of use the term frame. Okay, you can think of it similarly to an artboard on Illustrator. Okay, so you can click on this tic-tac-toe icon, or you can hit the F key and you have the frame, and you'll see on the right side panel. Okay, on the right side panel, you will see a few already predetermined dimensions for you, right? These are the commonly used uh, dimensions for different platforms and devices, right? So we have phone, we have iPhone 15 Pro Max, we have the mini, right? For a tablet, we have the iPad Pro, we have the Surface, right? And for desktop, we have different dimensions for different devices, right? So for us, we're just going to go ahead and use the typical one, the most common one, right? Which is the desktop. Okay, you can see that wireframe also is possible. It's the same thing, right? The same dimension. So 1440 by 1024 is the most common desktop dimension. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and use that. This is our frame. And now we can go ahead and rename this frame to call it homepage wireframe. Okay, so always keep our layers well labeled. Okay, it is to know that everything is kept clear and organized, because you might not be working alone on a particular project. So it's important that you label everything properly so that other people or your colleagues are able to find the necessary place to do the changes if they need to. Okay, now we're gonna move on. So we have our frame already. Okay, now we want to go ahead and create our 12 grid column, right? Because like I said, generally, we design our web pages on a 12 grid column, and so I want to create the guide for this wireframe here, right? The 12 grid column guide. So what I'll do is you just go ahead and come to the right side here. You'll see the layout grid. Okay, so press on the plus icon. When you click on the plus icon, you will see that there is this 10 by 10 pixel grid that disappeared, right? But this is not the type of guide or grid that we want, right? We want the 12 column grid. So what you can do is click on this layout grid settings here, this icon here, these 9 dots here, click on it, and we can change it to columns, right? So once we have this as column, feel free to key in the number of columns you want. For our case, it's 12, right? I'll keep the color of the grid to red, and I'll do this center, and the width of each column is 90 pixels. Okay, so obviously these things are changeable, right? If let's say you want to have 16 grid, it's possible. Okay, like I said, there is no fixed rule, but the general one we use is 12. Okay, and also we have the gutter here. Okay, the gutter here, again, if you remember from the previous lecture, the gutter is the gap between the columns. Okay, so here the default value is 20. We can of course increase it, okay, to 30. If we hold shift on our keyboard and we press up and down arrow, it will increase by 10. But if we just press the up and down arrow, it will increase by 1. Okay, but in any case, I'm happy with 20, so I'm just going to keep at this setting here. Okay, all right. So now that we have our grid, we can actually display it or hide it by hitting Shift G on our keyboard. Okay, so Shift G will toggle whether your layout grid is visible or hidden. Okay, so that is how you sort of show and unshow your grid. All right. Now we can go ahead and start doing on the wireframe. Actually, now that we have this settled, okay. So what we will do generally, and this is like I said, this is my process. It's very important for you to have your sitemap, because again, your sitemap tells you what is the content that you need to include on page, right? So similar approach to what we did for the sitemap, where we list out all the requirements, right? After our meeting with the client, right? So now I will list out all the content that we need to have in the page, right? So in this case, I'm actually doing the wireframe for the home page. Okay, so I'm just gonna click on this T here, and I'm just going to copy this space here so that I can just refer here. So I know for my home page, okay, I'm just gonna use the text tool. I'm gonna make it bigger, hold it, okay, and then I will type in the list of information that we need. Okay, so today's schedule is like the shows that are upcoming. Okay, like let's say what is the show on from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., right? So we will put up the schedule of the radio station. We have advertisings and we have music charts. Okay, so that is the content that we need in our home. But also don't forget, we have this present in all pages thing here, right? So what this means is we should also need to include all these present in all pages things in the page. So things like logo, navigation, or what we can also call the menu bar. Okay, social media, links. We have a listen online / now paying. I'm going to explain to you guys what is this in a bit. Okay, address and contact info, and we have subscription form and copyright info. Okay, now I just want to come back really quickly to this listen online and now play, right? So as I mentioned, obviously what I'm doing now is I'm demonstrating to you my process, and this has been done. I have done this many times. Okay, so everything flows very smoothly. Okay, but I want you to remember, okay, that for you, your process need to start with research, right? Visual references, you know the annotation and everything, and of course, then you move on to sketching, right? So sketch your wireframe first. Now, when it comes to visual research, right? So when preparing for this brief, okay, I've actually looked into competitors' website, right? That's what we do. Okay, so let's say I've went to Fly FM, okay, to Hits F, to BFM, okay, and also even like overseas, like a US radio station, right? And one thing you notice is that in every page, right, and especially in the header, we have this listen online functionality, right? So this Streamfly FM here, you click on it, you're able to listen to a radio station online. Okay, and here on hits as well, you will have this function here where you can click and you can listen live. It even have a now playing sort of description. And BFM again, listen live, right? And the other one that I've looked up to here, KCRW, which is like a radio station in LA, right? You have this listen live function on air now playing as well. Okay. So what we want actually is referencing like our competitors. We realize that, okay, there is this function called listen online, and we would like to have it as well for our radio station. Okay. So it is through visual references, again, is through looking at your competitors, is through doing research that you are able to understand or identify what are the key things that you want to include for your website. Okay, and this process uh it needs to be done. Okay, so what I'm demonstrating is just like a very linear process, but you would have done your sketches, right? For example, you would have done while you're doing your visual references, this one is what I've shown you guys last week, right? Doing annotation of your visual references. And then you would have done your sketches and coming up with some different layouts and experimentation, exploration. Okay, so as part of the submission or attendance for this week, this is actually what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to produce sketches for your pages, okay? And then upload it to a link provided as an attendance. Okay, but I will come back to that in a bit. So just know that when you are doing your wireframe, it's not such a linear process. You will actually need to identify all your items that you want to have in your page, do some visual references, competitors especially, okay, and then come up with some sketches on the layout that you want. Okay, so just play around. Your one page can have a variety of layouts to keep things interesting. Okay, all right. So coming back to your Figma. Okay, so let's say now we already have done our sketches and we have already determined on the layout that we want. Okay, so now that I have this information, okay, what I'm going to do is, if you remember from last class, right, when I was doing the setup, I spoken to you guys about the anatomy of the website. Right, so the website generally you can divide them into 3 sections, right? So the first section, the top one, is what we call the header. Okay, and I'm just gonna give this a stroke so that we can see clearly. Okay, like this, and then we also have the footer, and of course the body. Okay, now excuse me. Now the header and the footer, like I mentioned as well, right, doesn't change. Okay, means to say the content doesn't change and the design doesn't change. Okay, for example, if I were to show you again, let's say for this radio station, right, we have the menu bar here, or the navigation menu here, right, and we have the logo. Okay, so I'm just gonna click on another page, and you see when I'm in that music page, right, the header remains the same, right? The logo is where it is, the pages navigation is where it is, even this sort of advertising banner is there, right? And this is the header, so it means no matter what page you are on, the header never changes in terms of design, in terms of content. This is a user interface feature that we always follow. Okay, and the same thing with the footer. So this is the footer. We have the logo, we have some links here that we can shortcut, right? Download, etc., social media, right? And if I go to another page, like shows now, right? You see, if you scroll all the way down, the footer remains the same. The only things that changes is the body, right? The body content changes because obviously different page will have different body content. But for the header and the footer, all things remains the same. So when you come back to here, we can start identifying what are the things that we want in the header. So for example, okay, for the header, I would want to have my featured banner. I will of course want to have my logo and navigation. So I'm just going to put it here. Okay, and I think that's about it for the header. So then I move on to the body. And the body, I will have visit charts, today's schedules, advertising, and sorry, actually I think featured banner will be in the body. Listen now or now listen online or now playing is actually in the head, right? And then the rest will be in the footer. Okay, so if you notice, like some footer here, right, they do have a logo, right? So it's up to you whether you want to include a logo in your footer as well. It's fine, right? Doesn't mean that it only needs to be in the head. It can also have a logo in the footer. But for the sake of brevity, I'm just gonna keep it as it is, right? And not add too many things. Okay. So now we have our checklist. Again, it's a methodological process, right? So what I do is I interview the client, I get the information that they need, I organize them in a sitemap, and the sitemap is for the whole structure of the website, and it tells me every single page for other content, and I migrate all the content that I need based on my sitemap for every page, and I migrate it into a checklist like this. When then I can start to work on the wireframe. Okay, now then it's just a matter of drawing our wireframe. And like I said, these things you will probably should already have a sketches to guide you. Okay, so it's not something that you sort of do from blank, right? So for of course now I'm doing it from blank, but I have prepared for this lesson, so I can do that. I know I have done the sketches, I've done the visual references, everything to determine the layout that I want, which is what I'm going to do now. Okay, so very simple, right? So it's just basically if you remember from the previous lecture, right? I've shown you the wireframe, right? And basically a visual representation of how your information is going to be organized on the page. And these are like more neater and more well designed, clearer, and you can also have sketches, right? Sketches, which is quick way for you to come up with ideas on layout, right? So sketching is very important. It's very huge part of the creative process. So please do not skip the sketches. Once you have done the sketches and you decided on the layout that you want, then only you move on to the digital version. Okay. So I'm moving on digital version now. So I'm just gonna say I'm doing my logo. Okay. So I can draw the box here. I can change the height, accordingly, right here to me. I'm gonna keep it at 100. Okay. And most importantly, don't forget, as I mentioned in the previous lecture, to label your elements of your wireframe. Because if we don't label, then we have no idea what the content are and how would we know what your website is about or how the information flows, whether it's good flow of information or a good organization of information or not if we don't see the logo or the label. Okay. So now that we have our logo done, I'm just going to cross this off, okay, by highlighting it red. And then now we have the navigation, right, or the menu bar. Now, for a menu bar, we have to come back and look at our sitemap again, right? Because our sitemap tells us how many pages that we need on the menu bar. Usually, it's the top level. Okay, usually it's the highest level. All these are sub pages, right? So these are all the main pages. So these are the higher level pages that will be linked to from the menu bar. Okay, now you can also say home, right? So when we design the wireframe, should we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons, or should we have 4? Right now, you should know that in every website, right, the best practice for UI UX is that the logo links to the whole page. Okay, so if I were to go to, let's say, shows here, okay, so this is a Fly FM website with a shows page, right? I'm in the show page, right? This is a list of shows. And when I click on the logo, it actually brings me back to the home page. Same thing for hits. If I were to go to stories, when I click on the, maybe this one, because this is one whole page. Okay, let's see KCRW. Okay, so if I go to shows, right, so again, we have the shows here. And when I click on the logo, it actually brings me back to the home page, right? So same thing, same case for BFM. Okay, so
behavioral science says that
BFM links the video page to YouTube, gaming podcast. Okay, so when I click on podcast, when I click on the logo, it actually goes to the page. Okay, it comes back to the home page. Now for this case, BFM actually includes the home button of their menu, right? But this is actually not something that is compulsory, right? Because like I said, you can just click on the logo to go to the home, right? So you don't actually need to have the home button on your menu bar. Okay, so the logo is actually sufficient. Okay, so that will be what I'll be doing for my website. Okay, so I will be having 4 buttons rather than 5. I'm not gonna include home because I will link home to my logo. Okay, so I'm gonna have these 4 buttons here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just gonna draw the buttons. Okay, so again, I can fine tune the height of the buttons through here. Okay, and then I'm gonna label this about, since that's the about page, right? So it's gonna align. Okay, it's gonna align it. And to signify that this is a button, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it to have curved corners, right? So if you go to the top right of your user interface, your UI, you'll see there's this corner radius function or corner radius value, and you can just key in a big number to curve it up. Of course, you put in a very small number, you have a little curve, very little curve, a minimal curve. But if we increase it to even like 20, maybe 30, right, it will curve fully. Okay, so we have our button here. I'm just going to group this. Don't forget, right, to group it so that I can now duplicate another 4 for the rest of the pages. So I'm just going to change this to, looking back at our sitemap, schedule, news, and contact. Schedule, news, contact. Okay, so I'm going to find this center, center, center. Okay. So now we have our navigation bar, menu bar, right, with the 4 pages and the logo being the link to the home page. Okay, so yeah, now we are done with our navigation menu bar. We can move on to the listen online feature. Okay, so listen online, I'm just gonna do something like this. I'm gonna draw, and it will span across main grid. Okay, just let me put this at 18 maybe. Okay, or actually it can be less now. Let's just say it's 50. Okay, and I'm gonna label this obviously. So I'm gonna say now playing. Okay, latest current song. I don't know what is the latest current song. Okay, so Lunch by Billie Eilish. Okay. Okay, so now I'm not really concerned about the design of this actually. You know, again, wireframe is for us to indicate the location of information that is more, right, um rather than the design of the element, right? But let's say if you want to add some design element to make it more like visually clear how you're going to want it to be. Let's say you want to have an album cover, you know, you want to do something like this, you can. Okay, no worries. But for now, I'm just keeping it simple because I'm just using the wireframe as a way to identify the locations of my information on the page. Okay, so I have the now playing feature featuring the current song that is on the radio, right? And I will go ahead and create my listen live button. Okay, I'm just gonna duplicate it from the button that I have created. I'm gonna make this a bit bigger. Okay, I'm gonna align it center, and this will be my listen line. Okay, I'm gonna ungroup this first and drag it like this. And I'm gonna put here listen live. Okay. And then I'm gonna have, just to make things clearer, I'm gonna draw a play by the icon. Okay, by using the shape tool here, I can actually draw a polygon, which is a triangle in this case, right? And I'll make this black and resize it here. Okay, just gonna do this. And so now we have our listen live button, right? So when they click on this, they can actually go ahead and listen to the radio station live. All right. So we have our header done, right? So I'm just gonna again color this red, right, as a way to checklist to cross them off. So just gonna color this red here. Okay. Now we have our header already. Okay. So last thing, do not forget, group them up. Okay. And in the end, label them. All right. So we have this one, which is the logo. We have this group here. We can group them all together and we can call this navigation. Okay, in the navigation, we can actually label this about button, schedule button, news button, and contact button. Okay, and then this one is I'll group these two together since they have same picture. Listen online and okay, and these three components will be grouped into what we call the header. Okay. All right, now I can move on to the body. So I'm just gonna do the feature banner. Now, feature banner are things like this. Okay, just for your information, again, to show you sort of what I mean by feature banner. So these are what we call feature banners, right? Generally, usually they come in a slider, uh, right? Well, this is not, but this is a slider, okay? And this is a banner here, right? Let's see, yeah, this is a banner. Okay, so if we go to the BFM's website, yes, it's a banner, right, with a slider, okay? And as well, for this one don't really have a banner, but, you know, they have a featured section. But anyway, we have a featured banner, right? And usually it's used to promote the latest shows, the latest promotions, you know, stuff like that. So again, I'm going to draw the rectangle. I'm going to use this shape tool here to draw the rectangle. Again, the height you can tweak, right? It will be like this. I'll just draw it to be, let's just say 360. Okay. Now, if you want to indicate that this will be a slider, right? One thing we can do is we can use the point pen tool and we can draw the arrows on the left and on the right. Okay, so this is an arrow here. And another arrow on the right here. Okay. Now to make things even more indicative that this is an arrow, this is slider, I will do series of dots or circles, circular shapes, right? On here you have the ellipse, right? Or you can use the shortcut O. And I'm gonna duplicate this a few times. Okay, holding the Option key on the Mac and Alt key on Windows. and I'm gonna just change this to strokes under the field. Okay, so you see now it's much more clearer that these are actually a slider. I'm gonna put this like center. Okay, now it's clear. You can't, it's clear that it's a slider, but also, of course, we want to label it. So I'm going to say that since the banner usually are images, like for example, in website here, these are all images, right? This says images, right? This is not really, but is images. Okay. So to indicate that it's an image, what I want you to do, okay, is to draw a line across the corners of the rectangle. Okay, this will indicate that this is an image. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna copy, paste it, press it Ctrl V, just rotate it like this. Do some tweaking. Some tweaking. So this will signify that this is a banner, sorry, an image, and label this featured banner. And we'll have a rectangle. Send it to back. The square bracket. All right, so what I do is I just send to back is the square bracket where you have this sharp sort of corner bracket. Okay, and I will put this, I will drag it in and I'll bring it to front. Okay. Bring it to front. Set. I'm not sure why my lines are not in my wireframe, so I need. Okay. So sometimes, right? So I'm just gonna group this whole thing again, and I'm gonna call this featured banner. Okay. Now we have our featured banner. I'm gonna work on the rest of the homepage. I'm gonna add in the advertising first. Okay, advertising essentially are these things lah. Okay, this let me see if there is any advertising here. So, yeah, so you see there's advertisement here. You can't see because I'm using an ad block. Okay, but there's advertisements here. Okay, and for hits, seems to be okay. But for let's say BFM, does it have advertisement? No. For KCRW, yeah, I think probably things like this. Well, not really. Okay, but there are instances where your website will require like advertising banner, right? Like this. Okay, so what I'll do is I will put in the advertising banner, and the advertising banner actually runs across the left and the right of the page. Okay, now in this case, I don't have enough height to my frame. So what I do is I just select the wireframe and I'll just drag it down, increasing the height. All right, and then I'm gonna put in my shape tool, which will represent my ads. Okay, my advertising. So I will just do it at 200 by 100 by 700. Let's just say. Okay, I'm gonna label this ads. and I'm going to align. Boom, boom. Group them, duplicate it using the Alt key or the Option key on Mac, Alt key on Windows. And then we'll group this. I'm going to say ads, and there we are. Okay. So now that we have our ads, we can cut this off, and we will move on to our uh, schedule and music chart. Okay. So really quickly, I think you guys get the gist. All right. So my today's schedule, I will do it. The title for it, I will do it to span across 3 boxes. Same thing for the chart, right? So I'm going to label this today's schedule. Hold this, and I'm going to put it here. Okay. And I'm going to say here, music chart. Okay. And then I'm going to have the time and the DJ and show. So essentially, this is what we are doing, right? So for Fire FM, they do it in this layout, right? But essentially, the information that we need is the time and the DJs and the show name, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna say here, something like this. So, right, and DJ and show. So this will be the indication, right? Okay. Now I'm just gonna group this. Let's try and duplicate this down here. And group this, Command G. Add a few more. Okay, align them obviously, and vertically distribute them. Okay, very quick. Okay, now let's move on to the music chart. We don't really need to know exactly yet. This is again just the skeleton, right? So we can adjust it in the final mockup. Okay, according to the ads height and the music chart height, etc. Okay, but for now, this should be fine. And again, of course, let's group this and we call this today's schedule. And let's go for the music chart. For the music chart, we will just need to do something like this, again, do references, get some inspiration on how you can design a chart, like a music style chart nicely. So I'm just gonna pop this and change to 40. And this is actually the album cover of the #1 song on that day chart. Okay, so since it's an image, I will use 2 lines to indicate this cross tape, and I'll just call this album cover. And I will do this, send to back, align them, and group them. Okay. So this is the album cover for the #1 song on the chart. And then obviously we will need to have the song title as well as the this. So, okay. Now it's #1. So maybe we can have a few more. 2, 5, and number 4, and number 3. And vertically distribute them. Okay, and we can do this here, drag it here, duplicate it again a couple times, more times, and we have it. Okay, so this is our chart, right? You can group them. Distribute. Okay. So Shift G to turn off the grid, so we can see that our layout or our wireframe is coming to fruition. Okay, and then we are done with the body. All right, so you get the gist, right? So basically, this is how you would approach doing the wireframe. Okay, we will list out the elements, and we will do it point by point, and we will arrange it on our page, right? So let's now group this into our body. All right, so I will group this first. This is our music chart. Okay, and I will group all this into our body. Okay, now we still have a footer left. Okay, but you get the gist. Okay, basically it's the same thing. So just go through the content, and based on your sketches or your design, right, you would organize the footer, design the elements, and put it on the wireframe. Okay, so through the power of magic of technology, right, I will make my footer appear in 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's the benefit of uh, magic of television. Okay, it's like how Jamie Oliver cooks a chicken in 10 minutes. Okay, there is some things I still want to adjust. Seems like the height are not matched, so I'm just going to adjust it here. Okay, so now I have my footer, right? I'm just gonna drag it into my frame here. Okay. Okay. And I'll just readjust the height of the frame because I don't need that much height. Okay, so now our footer is done. We have our social media, we have our address and contact, we have a subscription to be center form, and we have a corporate info, and there you have it. We have our wireframe for the homepage done. Okay. So this is how you will go about it. Okay. Your wireframe. Okay, but just one last thing. Okay. Now that we have a wireframe, let's say we want to continue and move on and do our about page. All right. You don't have to go ahead and create a new frame over again, and then create the layout over again and then draw over again. What you can do is just very simply select this wireframe here, hold on Option key again, and duplicate. Okay, you duplicate it, and then now you just rename this as about, and your header is the same, like I said. Your footer is the same, like I said. It's just the content of the body changes, so we just delete the body. Okay, and then we can just design our stuff here, adjust the height of the page if necessary, and then you have our about page. Now, one last thing. Okay, now, like I said, when you're home page, we don't really have a button for home, right? Because the logo is the button to go to home, right? But for about, we do have an about button to indicate the about page. So what I will do, or what we actually need to do, is to put about button in an active state. What do I mean by that? Is very simple. Just double click on this, and I will swap the background of the button to black and the text to gray. Okay, so this is what we call an active state, right? So if you look, just go and Google, right? You can just Google active state button website. Okay, you'll see what I mean. So for example, right? So buttons you have state, right? And the active state is right, default state, hover state, active state, right? So when you hover, how the button look like, when the active, what the button look like, when it's disabled. Okay, so in this case, since we are on our about page, this is active, so I just indicate this active by inverting the button color. Okay, so this will make it clear that what I'm looking at, I know that this is an about page, right? When I'm on the schedule page, I know this schedule will be active, so it's a schedule page, etc., for the news and contact. Okay, so now that we are done, the last thing we can do, let's say we have done all our wireframes, what we can do is make sure that all the things that we want in our wireframes is in this frame here, right? So like everything you want in about wireframe is in about, everything you need in homepage is here. These things are not in because these things are outside of the frame. Doesn't matter, we don't need this. Okay, we only want this and this. So let's go ahead and just do the export our frames to PDF. Okay, I'll just export it on my desktop. From my desktop, you'll be able to see that I have this. Okay, so my wireframes are here. So these are what you have to do for your part of the submission for assignment 2, which is you do your wireframe. Okay, so that is how you go about doing a website wireframe. Okay, please now in your own time, okay, for your own time and for the class attendance, I don't need you to do the digital version yet. Okay, what I want you to do is just to give me some photos of your sketches. All right, and I want to see at least 3 different layouts for every page that you have. Okay, sketches only. I don't need that yet. So you can give me something rudimentary like this, but you can also do a better job than me, I'm sure. Okay, like you can be a bit more descriptive, but again, this is just idea generation. Okay, what I want to see from you is some of your sketches for your web pages, uploaded it to the link provided on eLearn, and that will be your attendance for today's lecture. Okay, so that's it for this session. Thank you very much. All the best.